Hello my friends, all the way around the world and back again. Namaste to you. Part 2 of the creator, whoopsie, background board sort of thing. That's where it's going. So what you need now is to get your gesso, and you don't need to, you could just make up whatever you want to do, and your card. Put a little bit of gesso on your card and scrape. And I mean just scrape. Don't put too much on your card, and just randomly move your card around. You don't want too much. What you're trying to do is just give some more interest and I guess take away some of the background, so it goes. It's a little less. It's a little less intensive. If you've got this much colour going on anyway, maybe you don't have on yours, but I do have on mine. So I just want to tone it down a tad, ready for the next bit. I don't want to get rid of it all because I actually quite like it. Oh, I've got such an itchy eye. Bear with. And because you do it with a card, you do get and you can take it on and put it on and take it off. You do get very random splodges, which is great. I love that because it's the texture of what's underneath it is already uneven. So, and again, if you get too much in one place, just wipe it off. I think less is more when you do this sort of thing, just because you can always go back. What's the saying? You can add more, but you can't take it away. Right, so that's all I'm doing for that. So down with that pot. And then I've got myself some, where did I get this from? Structure paste. And I've got that from, what's that place called? Tiger. Well, that's what it's called in the UK. It's a Finnish shop, I think, or Swedish. I'm just going to get you what I've already done with it. They're Finland, Sweden. Anyway, I think it's called Tiger. So I've used it here on this book page, and I'm going to paint these later. So you're going to need a stencil or two. Okay. So there's my stencils gone. And they do actually, in 3 or 4 different types, they do a structure paste. Then they do a texture. I can't remember actually. Let me have a look, see if it says. No. They do another 3 different, well they did, 3 different types, but I actually liked this one. So for this you're going to need the very thing I dropped on the floor. Some sort of spatula-y, scrapey thingy-majiggy. I don't know what design I want on here. I think I'll put that one. So I've got some small, tiny, actually I quite like that one as well. Actually I quite like that one. Do you know what? I quite like all of them, otherwise I wouldn't have bought them, would I? Okay, you like that. Actually, I like all of them. I sometimes get confused with what to use because I like all of it. Let me just... so I'm going to just do, where did I get these stencils from? China. So I can't recommend anybody because I don't have anyone to recommend. So I'm just going to hold this down and put some structure. I don't know whether it's the same as texture paste actually. Don't know whether they do the same thing because I'm not an artist, and to be honest I can't really tell you, but I like it and it works for me. So I'm just going to fill that bit in, and some of them I'm going to half do, and some of them I don't want to scrape it all back off, but I don't want a lot on there either. that bit done. I'll have a little bit over here, methinks. Maybe. And obviously when you're working with your I'll finish that sentence in a second. When you're working with I'll get it out in a second. Yeah, I know you're all finishing the sentence for me, aren't you? Right there, I can hear you. When you've finished with your stencil and your texture paste, please make sure you either put it in water or go and wash it. Otherwise you will be not happy if you don't. I don't like that bit. Take that off. And again, you could just put texture on. You could just, couldn't you? Who's stopping you? Nobody. I'll have a bit over here, I think. Into that corner. So as I say, I don't know if there's a difference between texture and structure. No idea. But this works for me, so I'm happy. I'm sure there are people out there screaming their heads off saying, no, that's not the right way to do it, or whatever. I'm really, you know, I don't do it because I'm an artist, I do it because I enjoy doing it. And there's no right or wrong way for me, it just is. Like that. And now I'm going to use another one, but before I do, I have to go and put this in water. I'm going to do this one, wavy, wavy lines. But I've turned my work around so I can actually reach some of the other areas. And again, I'm not going to be exact or precise about whether I fill every single one. I just want some texture. Like so. Hoping you can see this. I've just put my finger in it, that was a bit random. Want a little bit there. There we have it. And again, this is quite, this is going to obviously bring it and raise it off the edge. Could you use anything else really to do this particular style? No, because this is for structure. This does actually give it a raised effect. So, there we go. And it's starting to look, that colour's starting to, you know, be knocked back a little bit because it was right in your face earlier, which is nice, but not quite what I wanted. Okay, so whilst waiting for that texture paste to dry, I am now going to show you how to do a mini envelope without a template, out of a book, and a tag. So, where do we start? Get yourself a book, page, anyone. And you're going to need to make a square. So fold bottom right hand corner straight up. Fold this over to where the edge is, either way, and take that off. So now you have a square. Fold your corner in to the centre, or any one of your corners into the centre. And then the opposite corner into the centre. And then the opposite corner into the centre. So you now have 3 triangles, okay? Except this one is too low. Let me just rub that out a second. So then you're going to cut, let me just fold this in half a minute. So you just need to fold it in half, cut a small area, and I mean a tiny triangle, out of there. You've got your square, you need to fold it in and fold it in. And then fold it in half and cut tiny square, tiny triangle out. Fold those 2 corners back in, and where that is square at the bottom here, where you've cut, fold that up to where your cut line would be. And there's your basic envelope. You're going to cut, you don't have to, but cut those 2 bits out, there and here, tiny little bit. And there's your top piece that folds down. And you could corner the edges off if you wanted to. Right, now, to get it old looking and scrunched up, and you could really scrunch this up, but you are going to need some form of distress ink. Now, I like to use a brush, just an old makeup brush, just to do a little bit of oldiness on it, you know, the whole vintage look thing. But just with a brush makes it look more, I don't know whether you can see that on camera. I will do the edges as I would normally do them, but I just want to smush this on like this. But again, you could use boot polish, you know, shoe polish if you've got some and you haven't got any distress inks, or just use whatever you've got. You don't need to have a whole heap of stuff to make. You know, I didn't have a lot of stuff when I first started. It takes time to build your stash up, and then when you've built it up, you say, oh my God, I just have got so much stuff. I don't really know what to do with it all. And again, if you want to do those lines, you can a little bit easier. Right, then we need a little bit of, which way was I going with this? A little bit of, I've got some thin double-sided that I'm just going to stick my edge down with. But you could use Pritt stick if you wanted to, or just make sure you don't stick it to the back part of your cover. And off we go. And again, this is because you don't need all those jazzy tools. Okay, it makes it look, you know, great. I have got envelope kits, but I'm just showing you that you don't really need it. You just need to know how to make a square and then Obviously, depending on the size of your book, would depend on the size of your envelope, really. What does this one measure? This book page then measures 3.5 by 3, not including the top. And then there's your fold down, and you could put this into a hole punch if you wanted that round. You could top that in it if you didn't want it square on that. So that would go, not quite straight, in there. And you could go around your edges as you would normally do, or maybe you wouldn't. Preference is yours. I just want a little bit more on that. There you go. I'm not sure whether that's picked it up as much as I can see it here. One little envelope done. So, next bit, let me put my rubbish into one space. So let's take the remainder of the book, stick it to the back to a piece of coffee dyed paper. Doesn't matter which side you put down, because you're going to, with some stick glue or whatever your preference is. I wouldn't use a wet glue when you're putting paper to paper, because it does get really ridiculously sticky, and don't worry about whether it's straight or not, because we're going to distress it and rip it anyway. It's stuck. Right, so before you start doing anything more, you're going to tear the edge around your book page. Doesn't matter if you rip the book page a little bit more than you wanted to originally. There you have. And then you distress again, however you see fit. And again, you don't have to do this in Vintage Photo, which what this is, but that has always been my go-to colour, really, for edges and vintage looking things, colour. Then, oh look, ruin it. Don't like it. Let's throw it away. Oh no, changed my mind. It's okay, guys. I haven't lost the plot. Now you could just wipe this over the top, but again, I prefer a little bit less intense, and it will pick the creases up. I like my little old brush. It was never good. What is it? An eyebrow brush? Yeah, I've got plenty of them. Not that I've got any eyebrows left now, but they kind of all fell out. Lack of iron in my body did that for you. So now, anyway. So then again, you could wrinkle it back up, go in different directions. Oh, am I even doing this on camera? Okay. There you go. And then the other side is just sort of copy dyed plain-ish, you know. And there you have another tag. And you could put, is that the envelope we did? Yeah. You could put a little, I mean, it's like papery, and it does actually feel quite, almost a faux leathery. It's not crinkly, it's faux leathery, if that makes sense. But you could put a little charm thing on here, you could put a ribbon on, but I'm just going to leave it per se as so, like that. And then you could glue this edge. So if you had it in your journal, let's just say that was my page. Ooh, that's not even in half. What's wrong with me? Right, that's my page. So you could tack it down this end, tack it down here, and then you've got that pocket, and then you'd have that pocket as well, which would be nice. Or you could, so you'd have a pocket in there, or you could, again, pocket, you could sew around it if you wanted to. You could stick there at the back, and then you still have a pocket there. So you'd have one there, and then you'd have one here. But ultimately, you don't need to have that bit. You could just have that and have a sticky in there. Again, world your oyster, whatever you'd like to do, it's your decision. Just another little how-to there. Quite like those. We'll make some more of those later. I haven't got round to doing anything with these just yet, but I want to get back to that board that we were doing earlier, because that was the main focus. But of what I was doing today is part 2 of that board. But of course I had to have a tangent, because that's what I do. And there was my tangent, 2 little envelopes. Back to my alcohol inks bit, I knew it would come into this project somewhere. Now, obviously, these are raised, aren't they? And quite white and stark. Now, you wouldn't normally use, probably not anyway, alcohol ink on such a background, but I do. So I'm just going to spray that, like so. Now remember, it is flammable and it is quite toxic is the word I was using if you're going to breathe it in. So I'm just going to do a couple of layers of different colours. I know that you can't see it on screen, but it can, in areas like this, it gives it almost like a water stained look. I don't know whether you can see it on there. As I haven't got the reds ready, I will do the blues. As much as little or as you like. Let's see what happens. I didn't mean toxic, I meant fumy, as in you should have windows and masks on and all. I'm just going to work on this corner for a minute so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just layering up the colours quite intensely and drying them between each one. Whew, that was too close. And I'll show you what happens on the... I'm hoping you'll be able to see this. Let me just get these out of the way before I cause a disaster. So on the actual... Let me turn it around because this one's quite a good one that's happened on. Here on the... See? This sort of makes its own little... I didn't want to do that. Ah, that has gone right under the lounge table. The table thing. It makes quite a good sort of watercolour backgroundy thing. And I'm going to, obviously if you had other colours, if you had other colours, my red is still doing and my orange is still doing, my pink is still doing, so I'm having to use just blue, purple and green. Other colours. So let's try them. Who knows? What's this one? Red. It looks more orange than red, but that's okay. The key thing is to dry it off very carefully because it's heat versus alcohol. And it kind of makes watermarks because it pushes it away like that and spreads it, and then it obviously evaporates the alcohol off of it, leaving the colour behind. Well, that's the theory anyway. But again, you could use whatever you've got, and if you prefer to use pre-made, you know, by somebody professional, I don't know who does them, Dale Rowney or Ranger, whoever, then feel free to do so. But this works for me. This one's pink. But what I'm saying is, can you see how it, well, not that one so much as that one. It puts its own design on top of your, takes the white out and puts your own design on top. That one was pink. Not that the pink, the red and the orange look different somehow. I don't know why. But it doesn't. So we're going to go for some green now. Righty-ho, I'm happy with that. I know that you can't see it, but I can. But I'll show you in a second if I can get a close-up of it, how it's worked out. So a bit more blue because that seems to be doing pretty good. This is a different, oh, this is, why was this stronger? What's in this one? Ooh, don't know, but it's quite strong blue. That wasn't from tissue, that was, I don't know what that one was from. What's in there? Oh, nibs, that was from, I'll tell you what that was from. Sharpies. So I'm starting to like that effect now. Let me see if I can get that one right close so you can see how. Okay. And it starts to take on a real life of its own. Thank goodness. What's that blue then? Yeah, that one's a lot lighter. I'm not sure what that one's about. And the red doesn't look too red, and the orange doesn't either. But, oh yeah, the orange is okay. Oh, we have a blockage. Oh. We appear to have blockage, people. There we go. No, she's blocked up. We need an engineer. Oh, don't know what that's going in. It's not working anyway. But yeah, so can you see how it's developing? Maybe not. But I can see. I'm hoping you can see what I can see. Can you see what I see? If not, then I'm sorry about that. But just layer it. Just keep layering it, you know, and it just all comes good. Let me tell you, it just all comes good. Now that would make a beautiful cover. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I haven't decided. Are we going to do tags, or are we going to do? I think I want a bit of orange on here though. If I can just unsquish this. Oh, there we go. Just needed a bit of oomph behind it. I do like this textured look that it gives. So not only has it created layers, It's sort of created patterns within there because the alcohol is almost resistant. And even though it was colourful before and it's still beautiful and colourful now, I like this one. That's probably the best. It just gives you an idea. Where's that one gone now? Oh, look. My 4-inch table just won't hold everything. Let me just have a play with the red and see. You see, the red isn't so red. It's just not. That's okay. We can still get some good backgroundy. When you dry it, that's where the magic happens, I think, with alcohol. And what I mean by that is it's starting to I can't even put a word to it because I don't know what the technical term is, with what's happening. Other than it's almost like staining it, and I don't know. I don't know anyway, people. I don't know, but I do like it. Let me just give you an up. I do like it. See? And I think these are going to make great. I think that would make a great book cover, wouldn't you? Don't you even? Not wouldn't you, but don't you? Wouldn't that look beautiful as a book cover? However, it's not going to be a book cover today. I do like it, I have to say. Coming along nicely. So there you go. I mean, all you needed was you started off with a sweet chili chicken pizza box, did you not? And now you've got a work of art in front of you. Or maybe you haven't. No, you have, because you've got this, right? I want something there, I think, but I don't know what. No, let's just do it like that, because I think once it's chopped up, it's going to bring it to life again in another way. So, how do we chop it up, like you ask? Well, that's a good question. You could, oh, wrong way, hello. You could just cut it up, couldn't you, into whatever shape you wanted to use. You could also do what I'm about to do, which is get my old, gadget. What's the gadget called? Gosh, I tell you what, I do sometimes wonder who has got my brain cells these days. My die cut machine, that's the word I was looking for, and I'm going to see what happens. That would make a really nice bookmark, just that middle bit. You see, yeah, I'm going to cut the edges off and then we'll see where we go. Okay, let's do that. Should we just cut the edges off while you're here? While you're here, let's have a cup of tea and cut the edges off, just to straighten it up a tad. Now you see here, on this edge, I've still got the box. Not that bit, this bit. Oh, you're not on camera, so you can't see it. That's the original box just there. So what? But I do just want to square it up a tad because it's got to go through the machine. So let's cut all these little bits off. And then all of this from a pizza box. I've got a song about that. I know a song about that, rather. Right, so how's yours coming along? Huh? Did you make one? Have you done one? Why not? So let's cut some of this edge off. I don't do excuses. What do you mean you haven't got any boxes? Well, go and find one. Go and right next door's junk bin or something. Obviously keep 2 meters away from them, but Go and raid your neighbour's recycling bin or something. And this doesn't have to be straight. And that's a good job because it's actually not. It's actually not. So let me just get rid of those. I've got those scissors stuck on my thumb now. Okay, so let's just Scuba Delicious that. Now, as much as I don't like throwing things away, I'm not a thrower awayer. This I will, because there's very little I can do with it. Well, actually there isn't. There's probably loads I could do with it, but not today. So that can all go there. So now we have got the makings of a folder, look. Nice folder. How beautiful is that? Just like that. And actually, you could actually, you know, cut that into a little book and then have that as your tickets. That's a good idea, is it not? What do you think? Do you know, I am tempted to have that as a book because it's just too nice to cut up. But that is an extremely large book, do you not think? But that would be beautiful, wouldn't it, as a cover? And this is where I get into my dilemma mode. I could make 2 book covers out of that because in here there's a crease look down the middle. It's where I'd folded it in originally, here where my finger is. I'd folded it in half and put it in the box. But I could actually make 2 little, couldn't I? I could. And I'm just going to measure, because my brain's gone off on one again. Had you noticed? Oh, you see, those fit perfectly. Why wouldn't I do that? Well, they don't, but I could cut them down, is what I'm saying. If I was to cut the edges of the book pages, they would go and fold them in half. No, I don't like that because the writing's going the wrong way. That's the only issue with that. But I could stitch it together. And then, that's given me another idea. Oh, so many options, people. Let me see what I'm going to decide. I'm probably not going to decide anything. Or am I? You just don't know with me. You never know with me. Let me tell you. Here's my thinking, right? So I could sew a heap of these pages together, literally, down here, okay? And then thread some twine, cotton, jute, whatever, and attach it round the back of the book cover. I might do that. That means I've got to get the sewing machine out. But let me go and have a play first, and if it works, I'll come back and show you. I was going to make tags. You see how it turns out? But it's too pretty to make tags. It's too pretty. That's just too nice to cut up. This is where I get stuck. I do get stuck, but thinking, I like it at that point, don't ruin it. And it's already got the spine ready, hasn't it? So why wouldn't I use it as a book? Let me just straighten that edge up, because it is a bit wonky. So what do you think? What would you do? Not that what you do makes a difference to what I'm about to do, because that's what you'd do, not what I need to do. Oh, now I've cut that wonky, really wonky. Okay, I need to go away and think now. Can't think live on camera. I do think that this has to go in half and a quarter, actually. Half that way and half that way. And then, let me rethink this. Yeah, I reckon. Let me just go and do it and then I'll come back and tell you. Part 2 over, by the way. That's all, folks, for part 2. I'll come back and do the second part, the third part of what I've decided in the third part. That'll be part 3 then. Laters. Namaste, my friends. That's all I've got to say for now.